Headless Horseman rides again in Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp as Constable Ichabod Crane. It's one of 5 new movies on the show this week, and I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Michaela Pereira of ZDTV's Internet Tonight. Well, thank you for having me back to the balcony.
Thank you for coming back to the balcony. And now let's look at Sleepy Hollow. And to cut to the chase, so to speak, this is a surprisingly good movie, a thriller laced with lots of suspense and even more sly humor, as Johnny Depp creates an Ichabod Crane who is just a little bit of a coward when it comes to Headless Horseman, as indeed who would not be. The movie's been directed by Tim Burton, a master of special effects who adds to Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and Batman this creepy and atmospheric retelling of the Washington Irving classic about a headless horseman who is beheading victims in the small town of Sleepy Hollow.
How often do I have to tell you there is no horseman? There never was a horseman. There never will be a horseman. What is that thing?
My talisman, it protects me from the horseman.
You, a magistrate, and your head full of such nonsense. Now tell me the name of...
Assigned to investigate the case using his modern methods, Ichabod travels upstate and meets with the town elders.
How much have your superiors explained to you, Constable?
Only that the 3 were slain in open ground, their heads found severed from their bodies.
Their heads were not found severed. Their heads were not found at all.
Christina Ricci co-stars as the daughter of the town's leading citizen, who finds herself in sympathy with Ichabod.
It was your mother's.
Keep it close to your heart. It is sure protection against harm.
Sleepy Hollow is not just another horror movie, but a great-looking film where the visuals and the special effects all add to the atmosphere instead of simply calling attention to themselves. And the suspense grows even more effective, I think, because Ichabod Crane is not an action hero, but a cerebral type who has a lot of theories, but at one point simply locks himself in his room and pulls his covers over his head. I really had a good time at Sleepy Hollow.
I had a good time, too, initially, though, Roger. I really felt wrapped up in the suspense, and it was spooky, and it was scary, and it was gory, to say very lightly. However, about 3/4 of the way through the movie, I felt like it fell flat on its face. I didn't really feel like it was taking me any further. The suspense kind of dropped, and I found it, at that point, not very appealing.
Well, you know, the problem with all stories like this is that they have to end.
Yes.
And there has to be an explanation. And when you have a guy without a head riding around, beheading the folks in Sleepy Hollow, any explanation is going to be unsatisfactory.
And that's exactly what I felt happened. This huge suspense, this huge story, developing, all of a sudden, oh no, we have to end it. And bang, and I didn't feel that it carried through well. Although, I have to say, Johnny Depp, fabulous, and Christina Ricci was beautiful.
Yeah, they're really good together,
Very
and he
good
does
together.
a real nice job of making Ichabod Crane not into just kind of a straight arrow hero, but a guy who has all kinds of theories and ideas, and he doesn't like to get blood on himself, and he's kind of scared of things. Also, I thought the revenge at the end, that the Headless Horseman takes on the person who I will not name,
we won't name,
who steals his head.
That was wonderful irony.
Very good.
But I have to say I was disappointed, and I gave it a somewhat of a reluctant thumbs down because there were some complications in the story for me. For example, his whole past, Ichabod Crane's past, came into this story, and I thought that really muddied the story that we were focusing on, which is the Headless Horseman.
That part wasn't necessary.
Right.